You weren't born broken. You were made that way. Somewhere between childhood and now, someone convinced you that shrinking was survival, that silence was safety, that needing people was strength. And you believed them. You played by their rules. You stayed small. You stayed quiet. You stayed available. And where did it get you? Alone, overlooked, exhausted, still waiting for someone to notice the king living inside a man they've been treating like a servant. This isn't a motivational video. I'm not here to tell you it gets easier. I'm here to tell you the truth. The brutal, uncomfortable, Machiavellian truth that most men will never hear. Because the world needs you weak. It needs you confused. It needs you chasing validation, drowning in self-doubt, and begging for approval from people who don't even respect themselves. But not today. Today, something shifts. Today you stop being the man people walk past, and you start becoming the man people fear to cross. You've been through the fire. You've been betrayed, abandoned, underestimated, humiliated. Good. Because a king isn't forged in comfort. He's forged in collapse. He rises not in spite of the wreckage, but because of it. This is your turning point. Right here. Right now. 7 lessons. 7 savage truths pulled from the darkest, most ruthless corners of human strategy. These are the hidden laws that powerful men have used for centuries to rise from nothing and dominate everything. If you're new here, subscribe. Hit that like button. Because what you're about to hear doesn't exist in classrooms, in therapy offices, or in the mouths of men who've never had to rebuild themselves from scratch. This channel is built for the man the world forgot to warn. And that man, he's done being forgotten. Let's begin. Before we go further, we must acknowledge the man behind the mirror. Niccolò Machiavelli, Florentine diplomat, political strategist, and the most brutally honest student of human nature who ever lived. While other philosophers were writing about how men should behave, Machiavelli was studying how they actually behave. He didn't deal in illusions. He dealt in reality, cold, sharp, unforgiving reality. He wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. He believed that fortune favors the bold, the man who strikes first, adapts fast, and never waits for permission to claim what is his. He warned that men who rely on others will always be betrayed, that the world will not adjust itself for your wounds, that weakness, however genuine, however earned, will always be exploited. Machiavelli's most dangerous idea, that transformation is not about becoming someone new. It's about removing everything that was placed inside you without your consent. The obedience, the guilt, the fear of being too much, the instinct to collapse under pressure instead of expanding through it. He believed the prince, the true ruler of his own fate, must be both lion and fox, ferocious enough to defeat enemies, cunning enough to avoid traps, and cold enough to do what weaker men cannot. These 7 lessons are his hidden laws decoded for the broken man who is done staying broken. Lesson 1. The wound is not your identity. It's your raw material. Most broken men don't need healing. They need reframing. Your pain is not a diagnosis. It is data. It is the record of every blow that didn't kill you, and the evidence that you are still here. Weak men worship their wounds. They introduce themselves through their trauma. They wear their suffering like a uniform, wondering why people stop taking them seriously. They have confused having been hurt with being damaged, and they use that confusion as a reason never to move. A man who advertises his wounds invites more wounds. Use the pain privately. Mine it. Extract everything useful from it, the toughness, the lessons, the fire, and show the world nothing but the result. You got fired, or she left, or the business collapsed. Everyone expects you to crumble. Instead, you go silent. You disappear. You work in the dark. 6 months later, you return with something no one saw coming. That's not luck. That's alchemy. I'm turning wreckage into weaponry. Stop asking, why did this happen to me? Start asking, what does this make me capable of? The first question makes you a victim. The second makes you a tactician. The wound is the door. Walk through it or worship it. That choice is everything. Type this affirmation in the comments. My pain is my power, not my prison. Lesson 2. Kings don't explain themselves. Every time you over-explain, justify, or apologize for your decisions to someone who hasn't earned the right to understand you, you hand them a piece of your authority, and they will use it. Weak men are addicted to being understood. They need approval before they can act. They rehearse explanations in their heads before every decision. They confuse transparency with integrity, when in reality, over-explaining is just fear dressed in honest clothing. He understood that mystery is power. The prince who reveals his every move is the prince who gets outmaneuvered. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. Uncertainty about you is your greatest defense. You stop going to family events. You turn down the group chat. You're building something in silence and people want answers. You give them 2 words, I'm focused. No argument, no justification, just stone. Watch how quickly they either respect it or reveal who they really were. You don't owe anyone a tour of your mind. Your vision belongs to you until it becomes undeniable. Protect it, like a king protects his war strategy with silence and discipline. The man who explains everything controls nothing. Type this affirmation in the comments. My silence is my strategy. My moves speak for themselves. Lesson 3. Solitude is not loneliness. It's your throne room. The most powerful version of you has never been unlocked in a crowd. He lives in the quiet, in the dark hours, in the space between who you were and who you're forcing yourself to become. Most men never meet him because they're terrified of being alone with themselves. Weak men fill every moment of silence with noise. Social media, toxic friendships, relationships they've outgrown. They would rather drown in distraction than sit still long enough to hear what they actually want. Solitude confronts them with the gap between their potential and their reality. And that gap is terrifying. A prince who cannot counsel himself will always be manipulated by those who do. The man who fears his own company is a man who can be owned. Sit in your silence. Master it, or let it sharpen you into something the world didn't see coming. Everyone around you is partying, performing, chasing. You go home early. You read. You train. You plan. You sit with the version of yourself who has standards. People call it antisocial. In 2 years, they'll call it vision. Solitude is not punishment. It's preparation. Every great king in history had a private chamber, a place where no one could reach him, influence him, or distract him from becoming. Build yours. The king rises alone because the throne was never designed for a crowd. Type this affirmation in the comments. In my solitude, I build what my future demands. Lesson 4. Stop saving people who are drowning on purpose. Not every drowning man wants to be saved. Some of them want to pull you under. And the most dangerous ones, they look like family, like friends, like lovers, dressed in familiarity, armed with guilt. Broken men confuse loyalty with self-destruction. They stay in dead relationships out of obligation. They rescue people who secretly resent them for it. They pour themselves empty into people who treat their energy like an all-you-can-eat buffet, and then wonder why they feel hollowed out, used, invisible. He was ruthless on this point. He believed a prince must always evaluate what a relationship costs him versus what it builds him. Sentiment without strategy leads to ruin. He would cut without drama, without cruelty, but with absolute clarity about who serves the mission and who sabotages it. The friend who only calls when he needs something. The family member whose chaos becomes your emergency every single time. The woman who drains every drop of your ambition and calls it intimacy. You love them, fine, but love from a distance. Love them without letting them live inside your momentum. Your circle is your energy field. Every person in it either amplifies your frequency or drains it. A king curates his court, not out of coldness, out of survival. You cannot build your empire with people who are burning it down. Type this affirmation in the comments. I protect my energy with the same intensity I protect my vision. Lesson 5. Pressure doesn't break kings. It reveals them. You've been taught to avoid pressure, to seek comfort, to retreat when things become hard. But pressure as the only force in the universe that turns carbon into diamonds. And you were designed to be compressed. Weak men collapse at the first sign of resistance. And they interpret difficulty as a sign they're on the wrong path. They mistake discomfort for danger, and so they quit always just before the moment of transformation, always one decision away from becoming someone different. Machiavelli believed that adversity was not the enemy of greatness, it was the requirement for it. The prince who has never been tested is not a prince. He is a pretender wearing borrowed clothes. Real power is proven under pressure, not performed in safety. You lose everything: the money, the relationship, the reputation. Most men use that moment to disappear, but you use it differently. You treat the collapse like a controlled demolition. You decide what gets rebuilt, what doesn't, and what rises in its place. Stronger, leaner, unrecognizable. The moment you stop trying to escape the pressure and start using it, everything changes. Pressure is not your enemy. It's your sculptor. Let it work on you. The man who can stand still in the fire eventually becomes the fire. Type this affirmation in the comments. I do not break under pressure. I transform because of it. Lesson 6. Fear is a tool. Use it or be used by it. Every man alive is afraid of something. The difference between a king and a slave is not the absence of fear. It's the direction of it. Kings weaponize their fear. They let it sharpen their focus, clarify their priorities, and fuel their action. Slaves let fear make their decisions for them, and then spend their lives living inside the consequences. Weak men are controlled by the fear of what others think, the fear of failure, the fear of being exposed as ordinary. And because they won't face these fears, they never move. They procrastinate, they perform, they settle, and deep down, they know it. That knowledge festers into resentment, and they take it out on everyone brave enough to try. He said that men must either be caressed or crushed, because they will avenge small injuries, but cannot avenge great ones. In other words, half measures are the most dangerous move. Commit fully. Act completely. Fear is only powerful when you negotiate with it. Stop negotiating. You're terrified to start the business, to make the call, to walk away, to show up as the man you actually are, instead of the man people have been comfortable with. Good. That terror is your compass. It is pointing directly at the thing that will change your life. move toward it, or spend the rest of your life explaining why you didn't. The fear means you're standing at the edge of your current identity. What's on the other side of that fear is the next version of you. The king doesn't wait for the fear to disappear. He moves, and the fear follows him, not the other way around. The man who masters his fear masters everything that lives inside the men who don't. Type this affirmation in the comments. Fear is my signal to move, not my permission to stop. Lesson 7. The king you're becoming cannot coexist with the man you've been. Transformation is not addition, it is destruction. The version of you who people pleases, shrinks, settles, apologizes for taking up space, that man must be dismantled, brick by brick, habit by habit, relationship by relationship, because you cannot build a kingdom on the foundation of a man who was designed to serve someone else's comfort. Most men want to evolve without letting go. They want the new identity without releasing the old one. They want the discipline without abandoning the distractions. They want the respect without accepting the solitude that earning it requires. They're trying to carry their past and their future at the same time, and they wonder why they're not moving. He understood that the most dangerous moment in a ruler's rise is the attachment to who he was before power. Sentimentality is the enemy of strategy. The prince must be willing to become unrecognizable even to himself in service of the mission. Reinvention is not betrayal, it is evolution. People who knew you before will resist the new version of you. They won't understand the silence. They won't respect the boundaries. They'll call you cold, arrogant, changed. Let them. Their discomfort is proof that you've shifted. The people meant for the king you're becoming will find you when you're no longer pretending to be someone smaller. You are not the man who was broken. That man was the cocoon. You are what comes out of it. And what comes out of it does not apologize for having wings. Kill the man you were. Crown the man you're becoming. There is no other way. Type this affirmation in the comments. I release who I was to become who I was always meant to be. 7 lessons, 7 truths the world tried to keep from you, because a man who knows these laws cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, cannot be kept small. And the world, the system, the people who benefited from your confusion, they need you to stay exactly where they put you. But you're still here. You watched until the end. That's not an accident. That's the king in you refusing to go back to sleep. You've been through fire that would have destroyed most men. You carried weight that bent you, but didn't break you. And every single thing that tried to bury you gave you something you were never supposed to have, the knowledge of your own indestructibility. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not when the circumstances change, not when you feel ready, now, because kings don't wait for permission. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They move deliberately, silently, and with a ferocity that makes the world get out of their way. You are not broken, you are unfinished, and an unfinished king, fully committed to his own reconstruction, is the most dangerous thing on earth. Rise alone if you have to. The throne doesn't require an audience. If this video hit something deep in you, like it, share it with a man who needs it, and subscribe. Because this channel is not entertainment, it is ammunition, and there's more coming. Type this affirmation in the comments. I am the king I was always meant to become, and nothing will stop what has already begun.